G'day you good things, welcome back to Rice and Beans Mondays. I'm your host Chris, and in this show we talk about economy, finance and becoming financially independent to retire early. And in today's episode we're going to be talking about tax cuts happening in July for Australia. And you know what? We're all going to make a little bit of money here, but we're going to be talking about the blessing that it is, but the potential curse as well. So tax cuts coming in July 2024, moving to 2025 on the financial year. And you know what? You beauty. Tax cuts means more money for all of us. So let's have a look at these tax cuts. The tax cuts are to cut down employment tax. So the 19% tax rate cuts down to 16%. The 32.5% tax rate cuts down to 30%. There is an increase to the 37% tax threshold from 120,000 to 135,000, and an increase on the marginal tax from 45% tax threshold from 180 to 190,000. So what this means, guys, is it's a ripper. It means that the average Australian is going to be keeping a couple of extra $100 to a couple of thousand extra dollars that they're not paying tax on. They get to keep it in their pocket from what they've earned instead of sending it off to the government. You know what, guys? I'm a fan for tax cuts. I love tax cuts. It means I keep more money. I'm not sending money across to the government where they go spend it willy-nilly on, nuclear submarines, or they are spending on nuclear submarines. $365 billion on nuclear submarines. Ridiculous. But, it means that I get to keep that money to deploy it to my life and improve my life instead of the government just blowing it on stupid shit. So overall, it's a blessing. It's a good thing. Australians get to keep more money instead of sending it into the government. You beauty. Good on your Labor. And you know what? Let's have a bit of a deep dive in now. Let's have a look through it on, why they've done this, and then secondly, what the biggest risk to all of this is. So why has the Labor government done this? Why has the Labor government put through to all Australians saying you get to keep more money? Well, there's an election next year, isn't there? So the Labor government's like, well, let's do a tax cut. And it should win us some votes. It should win us some favour. And guys, that's the long short of the incentive to it. There's no hidden agenda or anything like that. Labor has an election coming up and they're spending money like there's no tomorrow. If you're in Queensland like myself right now, you can see the Labor government reaching into the piggy bank and then just throwing money around, making it rain like a hip hop artist in a strip club. Like, dude, what we got coming through? 50 cent public transport. We have stamp duty raising from $550 to $700,000 for first home buyers. $1,000 being credited to all Queenslanders' electricity bills. Bro, they are just making it rain right now because they want votes for the next election. Well, better way to win votes than to just give money to people. Whoever said that money can't influence votes in politics, right? And you know what, guys? It's all fun and games. Politicians are just making it rain. They're pulling money out, throwing it around, like trying to get their votes. Us as the taxpayers, yeah, we're getting some money here. And we're like, yeah, you know what? Sweet. We're just not paying as much anymore, but we get to keep that money. So, that's kind of a win. But let's talk about the big risk here. And if you've been tuning in, we've been talking about inflation a lot recently. And if we understand inflation from what I've been talking about, there's a lever that occurs. So governments printing money, spending money willy-nilly, and then the Reserve Bank saying, whoa, government, you are spending way too much money. Let's try to balance this out a bit by raising interest rates to curb that spending, slow down that supply and demand kind of ratio occurring right now. So by cutting rates, the government is allowing more spending from the population. We're not paying as much to the government, but as a response to that, we have more money cycling in because, well, we got extra money to spend, right? So the Reserve is like, well, hang on a second. Our whole plan was to try to get inflation down between 2 to 3%, but Australian government, you've just turned around and you've just given, hundreds to extra thousands of dollars to people to start spending in the economy. That's not the deal. That's not what goes on. So the risk is, guys, that the Reserve kicks in from this government stimulus that's occurring from a tax cut and says, well, because there's more money being spent, more money now floating through the economy, we need to make some steps. We need to make some measures. And if the Reserve Bank does one interest rate hike up by 0.25%, then all the extra money we're saving on tax is going to get eaten on mortgages and rent and cost of living. That 0.25% raise up negates the entire government tax cut. And to paint it even bleaker, guys, the Reserve's target is 2 to 3% inflation rate per year. Currently, we're over 4%. So if the government allows more spending, has more money circling through the economy from doing tax cuts, and then we all go buy new plasma TVs or LED TVs or whatever the newest, fanciest, latest TV is from JB Hi-Fi, well, then the Reserve's arm is twisted around and they need to increase interest rates. If interest rates go up, guys, well, guess what happens? Your rent goes up because the investor, their interest rates on the property is going up, so they raise the rent, so you pay the buck at the end of the day. Or if you're a homeowner, your mortgage goes up 0.25%, guys. You know, that's going to be like 30, 40, 50 bucks a week, depending on how much principal you have remaining on your loan. If we look from these cuts that the average Australian is going to benefit an extra 20 to 30 bucks, that one 0.25% interest rate increase negates the entire thing. Now, if the Reserve comes in harder, does a 0.25% to curve it back, and then 0.25% to really start pulling it back to get it back in line to their plan that they were following for the last 18 months, well, then we're all worse off, aren't we? And that's all because the government wanted to win a couple of extra votes. They were happy to start pulling money out of the piggy bank, start to, get that inflation happening, moving up again, instead of it balancing out and going down to where it needs to go. So the point of this video, guys, is yes, every Australian is going to benefit from this immediately. We are going to be getting extra money, not being withheld on page E or not having to pay extra at the end of the financial year if we're a business owner. But the risk is if the Reserve jumps in response to the government opening up the piggy bank and allowing more money to flow into the economy, when the entire goal, the entire focus for the last 18 months has been to raise interest rates, to curb spending, to start to drop everything down to the point where we were between 2 to 3% interest per year. Not 4%, not the 7.6% we were at one point. No, we want 2 to 3%. That's the target. But when the government starts allowing more and more money to flow through the economy, because they say, yes, it's good for votes, good for us, mate. And Elbo's there and he's like, just want to help out the average Australian person. Bless him, bless you, Elbo. But this could backfire very quickly. So unless the government's turning around and saying, you know what, we're going to do this and we're going to block the Reserve from raising interest rates, which they can't do. They can't do that, guys. The Reserve is independent. They can control this. It is a risk. It is a risk, guys. Great for them, great for votes, great for the uneducated. The uneducated are just like, yes, I'll get more money from my paycheck. But if the Reserve kicks in, raises interest rates in response, well, we're all worse off, aren't we? Anyway, guys, I just wanted to bring you up to speed. It looks good, but there is a risk. So we've got to watch the Reserve to make sure the Reserve doesn't increase interest rates as a response to this over the next couple of months. And then we're watching very, very carefully. But other than that, guys, that has been Rice and Beans Mondays, and I'll catch you next time. Peace out.
Hi, mate. Have you subscribed to Chris yet? Of course I did. The subscribe button is just down there. Did you know he's trying to get to 10,000 subscribers? 10,000? That's 5 times the size of Cuba Petey. Cuba Petey, mate. Cuba bloody Petey, mate. Cuba Petey, mate. Cuba bloody Petey. He's got some more videos over there too. Over where? Just over there. Over here? Yeah, mate, that's them. Cheers, mate. I'll keep watching because there's always something new. And I'll see you in the next one. Hooroo, you legends.